You're listening to the We Are Libertarians podcast network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com.
Okay, if you have not heard about Cash App, you're gonna love me. You want more from all these free apps used for just free and fast money transfers, right? Well, I've got the hookup for you. The Cash App. The Cash App card is a free Visa debit card that lets you use your Cash App balance to pay online and in stores. It's also the only way to get boosts. Now, let me tell you about boosts, because it's exclusive to Cash App. Boosts are reusable instant discounts that work at places you actually go to, everywhere from Starbucks to Walmart to even the PlayStation Network store. You can do so much more than buy and save money with this. You can even purchase shares of stock in companies you love by investing as little as $1. Banking is also made easy. With Cash App, you can directly deposit paychecks, tax returns, and more to your Cash App balance using the unique account and routing numbers. And if you don't think things can get any cooler, it does by allowing you to buy and sell Bitcoin, the money of the future. Selling and receiving money on Cash App is as easy as entering a phone number, using another user's name, or simply scanning a QR code. Hit the special link in the show notes and get $5 just for signing up. That is, use that link in the show notes and get $5 just for signing up. So go ahead and hit that link in the show notes and get set up with Cash App today.
Prepare yourself. You're on the run with Remso W. Martinez.
All right, Maria, I think the last time you and I spoke to each other, it was right around the time the plague was starting. It was right around the time that both of us stopped finding interesting things on TV to watch, and right before people started rioting, worrying about murder hornets, and we were still stuck in our homes for another couple months. So what have you been doing to keep yourself from losing your mind lately?
Oh gosh. So I've been reading and writing like a lot. And then this will sound weird, but like, you know, the sparkling water, like the glass bottles?
Yeah, the San Pellegrino stuff.
Yes. So I got it like spray paint. I used to spray paint like a bunch of things and I sent it to my friends as a gift. So it's just weird because one day I was just so bored. I was like, okay, what can I do with this? So I started like painting bottles. That sounds weird, I know. But
are you like, designing like different designs on them, or?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I am. Yeah. So it's weird, but
I mean, at least you're doing something. I feel like people's hobbies recently have been getting more dull by the minute. And the one thing that always bugs me is like before this, like, the one thing I hate is when you have to make small talk at like mixers or like networking events. It's like, so what do you like to do for fun? And people are like, I Netflix. Apparently, Netflixing became like a hobby. And it's like, that's not a hobby. That's literally not doing anything. Like go collect like stamps, or like,
I don't even know.
Go bird watching or something.
Yeah, I don't know what else to see on Netflix. Like, I haven't watched every single thing. Like, I'm tired of it.
Yeah, Netflix and YouTube and Hulu. I feel like I finally reached the end of that. And now I'm just struggling every day to figure out something to occupy my time.
Exactly. I need a new playlist.
Yeah, this is like such a first world problem, because here we are, we're surrounded by everything we could possibly want to entertain us. Mm-hmm. Yet, trying to find stuff to continually entertain us is the problem. My biggest thing is like once movie theaters start, that's what I'm going to start hitting up immediately. I miss the experience of buying like overpriced candy and soda and sitting with strangers in a dark room that smells like feet, watching a movie I may or may not like. Something about that I just really miss.
Yeah, just like seeing people, it's just so weird that I have been at home after CPAC until now. I'm just like, okay, I'm done with this. I need to do something with my life. I feel like I have wasted like 4 or 5 months of my life doing nothing. This is horrible.
Well, you've got some interesting stuff going on. And for folks tuning in, I'm talking to Maria Fernanda Bello. You're the director of coalition at Young Americans Against Socialism. You did that, and then suddenly you found new reasons to fight with people on Twitter. What's life like 10 cents?
Okay. Yes, I did. So that's the thing. The commies are coming after us. So we just gotta defend ourselves, you know? You just gotta defend yourself. You just gotta tell them what they don't want to hear.
I find it funny because it's like people are preparing for like either a communist uprising in the inner cities, or they're waiting for things to turn into like Mad Max's Australia, where we're all running around in leather outfits shooting at each other. I've got to say that the one joke that I got tired of really fast at the beginning of this was when people were equating like people waiting in line at Walmart for toilet paper to what people in like, you know, your home country of Venezuela are going through. When you heard jokes like that, were they funny, or was it just frustrating seeing people complain about literally one thing, toilet paper, which will constantly be resupplied the next day because it's not like there's a shortage or a mass scarcity in terms of toilet paper and stuff like that? What was it like when you would hear jokes like that at the beginning of this whole pandemic?
So let's just start by saying that so I went to the grocery store like days after they said that we were going into quarantine. I went to the grocery store and it brought me flashbacks from Venezuela because there were so many empty shelves and things like that. I was like, no, wait, this cannot happen here. It's the United States. It doesn't happen here. It just cannot. I was just so like, I think it was a flashback. I was just like, it cannot happen here. It makes me kind of mad because I've heard so many people saying, oh my God, I feel like I'm in Venezuela. I was like, no, you don't feel like you're in Venezuela because you have never been in Venezuela. You have never lived in Venezuela. You don't know what it's like to live in Venezuela and to go through to the things we all went through. So it just kind of makes me mad because people like, for example, in here, if you don't find toilet paper today, you can go the next day and you might find it, or even the same day. In Venezuela, you can spend weeks without toilet paper. And it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but it's literally what's going on in Venezuela.
I'll never forget one of the first moments where I really began to pay attention to what was going on in Venezuela was around 2016 when Maduro was really kind of settling into his power and really beginning to clamp down on things. I think there was a riot at the Caracas Zoo, and there were reports of people killing like flamingos and fighting polar bears to eat them. And I thought this was something like out of an episode of South Park until I actually started seeing the reports from like neighboring Brazil and stuff like that translated into English. And I was like, wow, this is happening. And I mean, for the most part, I think Americans have like this kind of skewed look as to how life in South America is. I mean, when you look at countries like Venezuela, for example, I at least remember when I was growing up, it was one of the richest nations in South America. I mean, the country is gifted with many natural resources other than just oil. And things were relatively safe until Chavez came in. And now, and now you would think, thanks to people like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and Sean Penn and the like, that life before Chavez was just absolutely terrible, and that he was this defender and great protector of the people, and we need to be more like him and how his regime in Venezuela was here in the United States now. It's like this rose, you know, we're looking through rose-covered lenses in this case.
To me, Bernie Sanders is just like Chavez, but in American Chavez, if that makes sense.
With less charisma. I'll give Chavez that compared to Bernie. Chavez had more charisma.
Yeah, he talked so much for hours and hours and hours, and he wouldn't even go to the bathroom. And you're like, how can you talk for like 15 hours without going to the bathroom? But let's not go that far. I was talking to one of my friends about this. My grandparents had a farm. They bought this farm in 2000. I was 4 years old. They had horses, every kind of animal that you can ever imagine. They had it. 2 years ago, my grandma had a stroke. They had to move from the farm to their house in the city where we lived. So they went back to their house. So they didn't have anyone to take care of the farm. But they would go like every week, you know, just to check on the animals, make sure everything was fine and things like that, you know, things like that. So one day they came back and their horses were not there. It was just the head of the horses. Someone
Like The Godfather?
Someone killed our horses.
What
like
the
four or
fuck?
five of them. Like 4 or 5 of them. They killed them and they sold the meat as it was a cow. So this is what it's happening in Venezuela. Like, people will steal from their neighbors just so they can eat. The worst thing is that the National Guard is literally 2 blocks away from where my grandparents' farm is. A long time ago, when I was like 10, 12, I remember my grandfather, he will always, every time that he will go grocery shopping in the city and he will bring it to his farm, he will always give them a bag full of food just to thank them for everything they have done for us. Like, to take care of our stuff, to make sure we were fine.
Right.
But now the National Guard, it's literally, they're against us. They're against their people. So you're telling me that someone went into our farm that's literally 2 blocks away from where your station is, and you're not going to hear gunshots or anything like that. So that makes me think that they were the ones who killed our horses. And, it's just insane to think that you will go into that. You will kill horses just so you can eat. But, it's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. It's something that my grandparents had to work hard to buy them, just to have them. One of those horses was mine. So it just makes me sad. And it was named after me, which is the worst thing.
Wow, that's like a double punch to the gut right there. They kill your horse, and it happens to be the horse that they named after you.
Yeah, because my grandfather would say that she was skinny, just like me, so he named her Maria. So it just makes me sad to think that now they have nothing. And my grandfather, he loved.
I feel terrible for laughing. This is a terrible thing to laugh at. I'm laughing in shock, not at the situation. This is horrifying.
Yeah, he loved his farm, and now he's thinking on selling it because he said, the people that he trusted were the people that did this to him. We had a guy taking care of our farm. This guy has been taking care of our farm for more than 10 years, probably like 15 years. This guy, he took our guns, he took everything he could sell in our farm, and he just left. We don't even know where he is. So who knows? We don't, at this point, we don't even know who killed our horses. But like, come on, are you literally going to leave the head over there just so we can see that you kill our horses?
Like that's some Godfather stuff right there.
Horrible.
He wakes up and he sees the horse head in his bed. That's horrifying. How long were you there before you came to the United States?
So I was born and raised in Venezuela. I left when I was 17, a month after I graduated from high school. So it has been almost 7 years since I left Venezuela. I went back in 2014. I stayed for like 6 months. So I came back again in 2015 to the States. And I haven't been back since then. So it has been 5 years since I haven't been back home. And, it's the whole situation over there. It just scares me that I can get my family, like, if something could happen to them because of me. I'm over here speaking up against the government. I don't know if the government knows who I am. I used to do campaigns against them when I was 14. I used to do campaigns against the government until I had to leave, until I was 17. And then at this point, I don't know if they know who I am, if they know I'm speaking up against them. I have had so many politicians that work for the government to block me on Twitter because
that's something to be proud of.
Yeah, I know who they are. Actually, one of them, he's from my city. And I remember my last campaign, he was running for mayor. And I told him, I'm not going to support you. I'm not doing campaign for you because I know who you are. And I don't want you as the mayor of my town. So he knows who I am. So I when I found out that he was with the government, I just started like going off on Twitter on his username. I was like, hey, how many dollars did they give you? Like, how much did you sell the country for? How much did you sell your soul for? Like these politicians, they think we're stupid. I always said this, our generation is the generation that is going to change the whole entire situation in Venezuela because these politicians, they're all corrupt, all of them.
It's one of those situations that seem really alien to people that don't understand what's going on. They can't really understand the context of it. And the only the only way that I have learned about it is through really American reporters over the years. I've tried to really understand what's actually going on in the country from actual Venezuelans, and that seems to be the difficult part about it. I know growing up in Arizona, a few miles away from the U.S.-Mexican border, like for example, in Mexico, you do have the ability to speak your mind, and you could speak publicly about the government and things like that. But like Mexico, for example, it's just such a dangerous place to be active in politics or journalism. Most people, while they might legally be allowed to say what they want, they're usually, they don't say anything because they're either afraid of the cartels or crooked cops coming and, hurting them or their families. What's it like in Venezuela when you're doing these things? I mean, is there such a thing as, in the United States, we have the First Amendment, which protects your right to, speak your conscience. Are you able to do that? And if you are, I mean, what are kind of the dangers of doing that? Because I think we take it for granted in the United States. Yeah. If you're an American liberal, and you're calling Trump a fascist, I mean, he's not going to send anyone to attack you. You're not going to lose your job. You're not going to jail. I mean, if let's say they were right, then he's like the worst fascist on earth because he doesn't do any of the things that they accuse him of doing. In fact, he's protected them on more than enough occasions, whereas other dictators and other presidents across the world would have done horrible things to them. So I think we really take it for granted here. So what's it like back home when you try and do that?
Yeah, I think you guys, we all do, including myself. But in Venezuela, there is no such a thing as the First Amendment. If you do speak up against the government, you're either going to end up in jail or you're going to end up dead. I have friends that have ended up in jail, and one of them was actually facing 15 years in jail. So I don't know if you have seen videos, but you see all of these kids, students protesting against the government. You know that at the end of the day, something's going to happen to them. I have a friend right now that I told him, hey, you better slow down because you're doing too many things and the government will come after you. Actually, the government did tell him, hey, you better slow down because you're going to end up arrested. So, the word is to know that you're just trying to defend your country and you cannot do it because they're either going to kill you or they're going to arrest you and put you in jail for the rest of your life.
Is this something? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so in Venezuela, it has never been like that. Even better. I remember my grandparents, they used to work for the petroleum company in Venezuela. And I remember I will ask my grandma, why do you vote for Chavez if he's not a good guy? She told me, if I don't vote for him, he's going to find out. And then he's not going to give me my retirement money. He's not going to give me, my health insurance. And she has worked for her whole entire life in this company. Obviously, she has to have her retirement. I mean, someone that's 60, 70 years old, you are going to tell them, hey, if you don't vote for me, I'm not going to give you that monthly money to support yourself. So I remember right now it's nothing. It's like $5. But I remember she would tell me if I don't vote for him, and that's what Chavez will tell our people. He will tell them, if you don't vote for me, I'm going to find out, and then you're all going to get fired, and then I'm not going to give you your retirement money or any of the help that I do give you. So, yeah.
Wow. It's just, we don't like to think that that's going on in the world. And usually when we think of countries that behave like this, we usually go to America's usual suspects. We're thinking Russia, we're thinking Saudi Arabia, we're thinking Nazi Germany. This is literally within our own backyard. And I feel like, what goes on in Central and South America should be something that we think of more, and it should be more of an effect on our lives, because when you look at trade, when you look at culture, it's one of those things that really doesn't get paid attention to unless it's like an immigration problem, unless you have people coming in from like Guatemala or El Salvador, coming through the southern border into the United States. It's like we never talk about it. When you see the American media talk about, things like this, especially when they do talk about Venezuela, which is rare. I think the American media has really intentionally ignored what's going on in Venezuela. I mean, what do you think of their coverage? Do you think they're doing it a just job, like they're doing it fairly? Or do you think that they're lacking some of the actual work they need to do to show what's actually going on? Because there's this severe disconnect between how like CNN wants us to look at Venezuela and how Venezuela is. I mean, I got to call them out with that. It's usually MSNBC or Venezuela. And usually when we hear about it, it's that we don't know what's going on and that we just need to listen to what the Maduro regime is talking about. And that's just not what they're supposed to do. They're actually supposed to show people what's happening, and they usually don't do it. And usually when I listen to like a national public radio, for example, it's very brief. You might hear about a riot here or there. You might hear about a strike or something, but it's like a cliff note in an entire hour news feed.
Yeah, I think that they're not being honest. They're not, I don't know if it is because they're scared of losing their jobs or just because they just want to be ignorant to what's actually happening in the country. CNN is just the worst. Let's start from there. The thing is, what's happening in Venezuela because of social media. That's how I know what's happening in Venezuela.
That's primarily it.
Yeah. Because my friends told me, or because I'm always like talking to them, because I have my friends are over there and they're students. They're these students who always go out on the streets to defend their country. And I'm always like, talking to them, hey, be careful, let me know what's happening. And they always send me pictures, videos, and things like that, so I can post. So just so the people that follows me, the Americans that follow me, they actually see what's exactly going on there. So what's even in the country, what's actually even happening in the country because of social media. There's not such a thing as a TV channel or something like that will tell you exactly what happens, because the government is going to get that TV channel out of the cable thing. So that's how you know what's happening, because of social media, which is really sad, no?
Yeah, I mean, despite all the negative things we say about, Facebook and Twitter, it really is like one of the worst things to ever happen, or maybe one of the best things to ever happen, because it's a double-edged sword. Just curious. I mean, I'm really ignorant about a lot of this. So if I sound like I'm asking a stupid question, I apologize. But like, is the media outlets in Venezuela, are they state-run, or are they allowed to act publicly? I mean, privately.
So I mean, all of my friends, they're always like posting stuff, things like that. But they have to be really careful with what they say, because I mean, you never know if one day you're gonna get out of your apartment and the government is gonna be waiting for you outside your door. So they just gotta be like really careful with what's actually with what they're gonna say or things like that. I have had so many friends that the government haven't already told them, if you keep doing this, you're just going to end up in jail. And you see all of these politicians, it's people that are like 20 something, they have been arrested and they have been in jail for years.
Gotcha. So I'm going to go ahead and take some questions that we got from followers of mine on Instagram. And folks, I go ahead and I post Instagram stories asking you to go ahead and submit your questions on a pretty regular basis. So if you're not following me on Instagram, so that way you can engage with the show, get your questions brought up in future episodes, go ahead and follow me at Hey Remso. It's just HEYRAMSO. Hey Remso on Instagram. I'm there everywhere. And you can go ahead and submit your questions when I go ahead and put that sticker on one of our stories. One of them asks, what are the views of the average Venezuelan towards the United States? Because it often seems like, and I will admit that we do this to some degree publicly, but when you look at different administrations, different governments dealing with the United States, there seems to be a lot of propaganda put out by the government to turn the population against the United States. Is that something that happens, or are people more mixed in their views about the United States? What would you say if I were to go on the street and ask someone, hey, what do you think of the United States? What would they typically say?
So what I think is that Venezuelans were hoping that United States will be the country who will help us get rid of the government. That's what we actually think. I don't hate the United States. I love the United States. I think it's just like, as you see, Venezuelans with Biden. So,
that seems kind of weird. when it comes
Yes.
to Joe Biden. It's like
Yes.
when you look at who's actually tried to get involved and actually advocate for what you see the people of Venezuela looking for. I mean, the Trump administration has done more than any of the last several U.S.
Yes.
presidents.
Actually, yes.
He doesn't get a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I have always said it. The United States, well, actually, Donald Trump has been the only president who has actually thought about doing something against the Venezuelan government. The others go to Chavez and Maduro and just take pictures smiling. That's what Obama did. That's what Joe Biden did. And those pictures are out there. So now you're telling me that you're going to do something for the Venezuelan people when you have a picture smiling to someone who has killed thousands of people. So I think this administration has been the only one who has actually said something about Venezuela, who has actually support Venezuela so much, who has actually received so many Venezuelans. It's just really hard. I mean, when I talk to my family in Venezuela, they always tell me Donald Trump is the one that's going to do something. Actually, my family in Venezuela supports Donald Trump.
Wow. It seems like it gets really tricky because when we think about our country going and getting involved in the business of another country, it's kind of double-edged because what we've seen is that at the end of the day, I think America will always be the biggest force for good in the world. When hurricanes happen, we send a U.S. Navy carrier out there and we provide medical relief and aid and food and protection at no cost to the country we're helping. When we look at our NGOs that are going and helping with, third world and developing nations overseas, that's usually at no cost to the government that we're going to aid. But then there are other situations where when you look at American influence in Latin America, it usually isn't that comfortable. Usually there are some tensions with that. So, I mean, when it comes to America, the government coming and helping the Venezuelan people, especially right now with President Guaido, what does that really look like?
Honestly, I think that every Venezuelan right now, they just want to get rid of the government, that they don't care who actually comes to save them. I think many Venezuelans do actually want the United States government to do something. What we want exactly is just first get rid of them, and second, we probably just want a new administration in Venezuela. So we don't want the same politicians who has negotiate with the government. We don't want them. We want new people, new politicians, the ones that actually care about the country.
So when you're talking about the government, are you talking specifically about the remnants of the Maduro regime?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think this is what kind of confuses people. We know that the United States and many of our allies recognize President Guaido as the legitimate president of Venezuela. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's like you still have this counter government with Maduro saying that, the election was rigged or whatever, and Maduro is still president. So how's that? I mean, I can't imagine that ever happening in the United States. What's it like?
It will.
Yeah. I mean, what's it like in this case? Do the people really recognize that, Guaido is the president and this is our new government? Is there a schism? I mean, what's it like right now?
Honestly, they do, but it just doesn't matter anymore because they know that Maduro is going to do whatever it takes for him to keep the power. Guaido doesn't have the resources to help people right now, so it's just whatever Maduro says, whatever Maduro does. The bad thing is that they keep talking about negotiate with the government, which you cannot negotiate with a dictatorship. You cannot negotiate with someone who has killed so many people. So that's the problem with the opposition. They just want to negotiate. They want to keep doing the elections. Why are you going to keep doing elections if you know Maduro is going to win anyways?
I mean, this is just I'm trying to find the right way to answer this question because it's just like it's a very complicated situation. I'll just kind of break it down. Like, okay, the military is the military faction. Okay.
They're with Maduro. They do whatever Maduro says. We have some, you can say, some people from the military who has gone to support the opposition, but most of them are with the government, with Maduro. So the military is with Maduro. The assembly, all of those things belong to Maduro. Pretty much the whole entire country.
Wow. What about the police?
Maduro. All of them. All of them. I mean, the military is corrupt. So pretty much when you think about the police or the National Guard or the military, when they know that if they don't work for the government, they are not going to eat. Just imagine, they're obviously going to support the Maduro regime. They're going to keep supporting them because they know that they are the only way for them to eat, even though it's not too much what they paid them, but they know if they don't do their job, Maduro's just gonna, the government's just gonna fire them.
They have more to lose than they have to gain.
Exactly. By saying it like that, pretty much by leaving, exactly. It's really sad because the military is just killing our students, and it's just horrible. They're killing our students. They're going against these kids. These kids they don't have anything to defend themselves. We know that the military, the police, they have the guns. The criminals have the guns. The students who are actually out there trying to defend the country, they have nothing to defend themselves. So this is why we have so many students dying from gunshots because of the government.
Would you say that there have been any positive changes since really the kind of fracturing of the government between Maduro or Guaido, or has it just been another chapter in a series of unfortunate events for the people of Venezuela?
Another chapter. I hate to say it, but it's just another drama, another day, same thing. They keep saying the same thing, but nothing happens. I mean, when Guaido, when he became the president, the interim president, we thought that it was going to be our hope to take our country back, to actually do something. But it has been 2 years now, and nothing has happened. So it's just another day with Maduro, another day with the same thing, another day of not finding food, another day of, I'm scared of going out because I might die. Another day is the same thing. Nothing has changed. Another day that we have to get in on a line from 14 hours just to get gas in our car, things like that.
That's heartbreaking to hear. What have happened to people that, think like you do, that this is something that, this isn't good, we have to change it. But at the same time, it's some people might have families. Some people might just want to say, I can't do this anymore. I've heard some reports saying that a large number of Venezuelans were able to leave, and that in some cases, a lot of them have not been able to leave. If let's say I'm a Venezuelan citizen and I want to leave Venezuela, is that possible? Is there anybody stopping me, or can I leave?
Well, if you have a passport and you have money, so you can go somewhere, then you might be able to leave. But if you don't have a passport and you don't have money, then I am so sorry to tell you, but that might not happen. For example, my family has tried to get their passport for 3 years now. And what they tell them is there's no material to do the passports, or, hey, today, if you pay me $200, I will give it to you tomorrow. But then you go to the next day, it's if you give me $500, I will give you your passport, things like that.
Oh, so shit. So basically, it's not about can you.
It's about corruption. It's about money.
Corruption. Okay.
Yeah, it's about money. So it has been so difficult for Venezuelans to be able to leave. I left almost 7 years ago, and it was kind of easy. It was fine. But if you're an average Venezuelan who has nothing, it's hard. For example, I have a friend. The government was. The government wanted to arrest him And then this guy, he couldn't go to an airport because if he knew he would go to the airport to take a plane to leave Venezuela, the government will actually capture him. What did he do? He crossed the river from Venezuela to Colombia just so he could go to Colombia. There are people walking from Venezuela to Colombia, and they spend like 15 days walking just so they can escape socialism.
Wow.
So I had it easy. I was one of the luckiest one. I was one of the luckiest person to take a plane and come here, and that was it. But there are other people who are not.
What was it like when you were coming to the United States? Because I know, like, I don't think it's changed, but like I can't take a direct flight to Cuba or to Venezuela. That's barred for American citizens. What's it like when you tried to come into the United States?
So I flew Caracas, Houston, Washington, D.C.
Oh, so you could fly right in.
Yeah, well, that was 7 years ago. Right now, you cannot do it. If you want to leave Venezuela, you have to go to Colombia, Panama. It's a long trip. It's a long trip. It's bad. But so when I came here the first time, I remember when I left the first time, I remember I told my mom, I was like, hey, I'm gonna be back in 1 year. I'm just gonna go study English, and then I will come back. I will go to school here. I got here, and then probably 2 weeks after, I was like, Mom, I am going to stay here. I want to go to school here. It's I have things I don't have over there. I have freedom, which is one of the things I was looking for. I'm not scared of seeing people, because in Venezuela, there's this thing. If there's someone with the motorcycle coming like towards you, that means that person has a gun and that person is coming to take your phone or something like that, to rob you. So I remember one of my friends, he has just come to my school, and I remember going out to eat, and then he saw this guy on a bicycle, and then he was freaking out. I was like, what's happening? What's going on with him? He's like, there's a guy on a bicycle. I was like, nothing's gonna happen, don't worry. So we have like a trauma, like we're traumatized pretty much. I had a trauma with guns because I got robbed twice in Venezuela with a gun pointed at my head. So I hated guns. Believe me, I hated guns. I was so scared. I couldn't see a cop. I couldn't see the police, nothing, because I was so scared, until I actually understood that guns are made to defend yourself. So in Venezuela, it was like a whole entire thing. But once I got here, I told my parents, well, my mom Muslim, my dad lives in Puerto Rico. So I told my mom, was like, Mom, I'm staying here. I'm going to go to school here, and I'm going to have a life here.
How was the reaction from your family when you told them that?
That's exactly what she wanted. She wanted me to stay here because
so she was cool with it.
Yeah, she knew if I came back to Venezuela, I was going to just keep doing the campaigns, the process against the government. And for my major, what I wanted to go to school for, I had to live in the capital. That was actually the only school in the whole entire country who had my major, and I would have to live there. And obviously my mom didn't want me to go to the capital. It's dangerous over there. So that was my only choice. So when she heard that, she was like, okay, cool. That's actually what I wanted.
What were some of the other culture shocks you experienced when you finally started actually settling down in the United States?
Probably when I went to a supermarket, and I'm serious.
The memes of the memes of supermarkets and other stores, encountering socialism are all over the internet. So I can only imagine what it was actually like walking into a Walmart here.
Yes, I was like, oh my God. I was like, gosh, like shelves are full. I have like 10,000 type of milk and cereal and things like that. It was just shocking to me too, like I was like, wow, is this what a real supermarket looks like?
It's just funny because like I've said on multiple times so far, we take so much for granted. That's why when Bernie Sanders was running for president the first time in 2016, somebody asked him, what are some of the things that bother you? And he said, well, it bothers me that you can go to the store and find 7 different types of deodorant, but people can't have access to healthcare, as if those things are connected. And it's like, Bernie, what are we going to have? Just the deodorant? We're not going to have competing deodorant? Like he had this complete hatred for competition. And this is one of the things I kind of want to transition to. It's this almost elitist mindset that really patronizes the pain of people actually going through the hardships that we really don't have a clear understanding of in the United States. And I see this whenever you're online. I see this a lot with Daniel DiMartino. You always have these, they're usually middle upper class liberals who are from the East Coast. It's usually the stereotype of it, who will just go ahead and start, attacking you two, almost as if it's like they know what's going on. And it's people that have never so much as left their state. Suddenly they're foreign policy experts, and suddenly the experiences that you and him have dealt with, they're not real because that's not what MSNBC said.
Well, remember, red lines are good. Remember? They're so good. Yeah, because I love to be under the sun for like 15 hours just so I could go grocery shopping. And once a week, yeah, because I actually love that. No, I want to go to the supermarket whenever I want to buy whatever I want.
How do you deal with those people? I mean, I can only assume that like when I've dealt with haters online, I usually just ignore them. Usually there's no way I could convince them because they don't want to be convinced. They don't want to have a discussion. They just want to fight. Yeah,
they just want to take a screenshots of everything I say. For the moment I say something stupid, they can use it against me. But mostly what I do is just ignore them. But it depends on how I feel. If there is a day that I feel like fighting with one of them, I will do it. Believe me, I'll go after them. I have had so many people like these comments. They're like, feelings don't, facts don't care about feelings, something like that. I was like, really? So you're telling me that what I went through in Venezuela, I'm just like making that up? So mostly it's just like the best thing you can do is just ignore them. Sometimes they say things that it really hurts because you have lost so many things. I mean, I was forced to leave my family. I was a mommy's baby, I have always been a mama's baby, and I had to leave my little brother and my little sister, which it broke my heart because last time when I left the first time, my little brother was 12. And I remember when I came back a year and 2 months after, my little brother, who had a baby face, he was way taller than me. He was like a man, he wasn't a baby anymore. So those are the things that you miss about being with your family every day. And that's what I think. The thing about these kids that actually want socialism, they have no idea what socialism means. They just know that it sounds great because they're going to give you so many free stuff. But it's like what I say. For example, this is my theory about socialism. When you go to your mom or dad, hey, mom, dad, can I have $300? And they tell you, well, you're going to have $300 if you clean the whole entire house, right? So they're telling you that if you do something they want you to do, they're going to give you that money. But if you say, well, no, I'm not going to clean the house, I'm just going to go work for myself and get that money. That's how I see socialism. They're like, well, I'm going to give you this much money if you vote for me. Yes, let's do that. But then you have all of these people who hate socialism that are like, no, thank you. I will work for that money. I don't care. That's how I feel. These kids don't have any idea. And the worst thing is that they have never even left the country. They don't even know what it is to take a plane to another country, to another culture, to see new things. They have no idea what it is. We have to leave our home when we were 17. I have just graduated from high school. I was a kid, pretty much. I didn't know the language. I did know nothing. I have never been to the United States. So it's shocking, but you just got to get used to it, and you just got to keep fighting for what you actually want, because if we don't fight for a country, then no one's going to fight for us.
Yeah, I mean, with the American left, they really do pick and choose what socialism they want to talk about. And I mean, we always look. I call it the picturesque socialism. They're talking about small Scandinavian countries. They're talking about France. They're talking about places where they have legitimate problems. But if you're going there as a tourist, you're not going to see it unless you're actually paying attention to the news and you understand the language. You're not going to understand it. It's like they're just going there to take photos and eat food and come home, and they didn't understand it from the people that actually lived there. And then when you bring up socialism under the Soviet Union, for example, I know plenty of people who were in gulags, for example. Gabriella Hoffman at Town Hall. I mean, I've spoken to her father. Her father was put in a gulag for almost a decade, and her family eventually fled to the United States. And now what we have going on in in Venezuela, here you have really an example of socialism when it hits its completion, when you start to take away private property, when you start to nationalize industries, when you get to the point where you're suppressing civil liberties of people. And this is why I very much tell Americans, it's like, go to Cuba. Actually go to Cuba and don't do what Beyonce and Jay-Z do and just pretend it's an Instagram experience for you to go ahead and be the cool American taking photos with poor people. Understand, like, that's a living museum of communism right there.
Yeah.
And it will never surprise me to hear the stories of people. I have family who are who are left wing of me, and my uncle went to Cuba a few years ago with his wife, and I mean, he told me that he went there expecting a cheap vacation under the sun, and what he saw were people living in just absolutely horrendous conditions in a way that we would never allow ourselves to be treated in the United States. And he would have never come to that conclusion until he actually saw it with his own eyes. And I believe that sometimes that's the only way people can understand it.
Yeah, and that's the bad thing. We don't want this to happen here, because I was talking to my friends a few days ago. We were working so many things with YAAS and things like that. So I was getting kind of like a meeting, set up like a video call with them and talk about what's next and talk about the ideas that I have had, so we can get something together. They were telling me, like, Maria, if socialism comes to America, where are we going to go? I told them, I was like, guys, I have no idea. I'm hoping it doesn't come here. But if it does, then this is the last place that we could actually be free, So I'm like, I don't have an answer for you guys. I think what we can do is just keep talking about what we're doing, keep talking about our story. And I know it hurts. There's so many things about our stories that actually hurt to tell other people, but this is the only way that they're going to understand.
Absolutely. So we're kind of running up on time. If people want to go ahead and follow up with you, see everything you're doing for Young Americans Against Socialism, how could they connect with you? How can they see more of the projects you all are doing?
So with YAAS would be their Instagram account will be YAAS America, and it's the same thing on Instagram. On my Twitter, it will be Maria F. Bello 96, and my Instagram account is MAFER B as in boy S52.
Perfect. Well, Maria, thank you so much for coming on. This was, I learned a ton from this. I know that our listeners are definitely going to come away a little bit differently, because like I said, this is one of those situations where, despite having, many competing, very free media outlets, despite having the whole world at our fingertips on a phone or a laptop, this is really one of those things that we've either become willingly ignorant of, or we just don't know where to start. So conversations like these really do help with that.
Yeah, they do. That's the only thing we can do to help our country or to help other countries.
Absolutely. Well, folks, if you enjoy conversations like this, go ahead, subscribe to the show. Please consider leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. And as always, you can catch me anywhere across the internet. You know how it works at Hey Remso. Be sure to find me on Parler. I'm just at Remso, REMSO. If you ever see Remso 2 pop up on there, message them and call them a loser. As always, listening to On the Run, I'm Remso W. Martinez. Good night.
Check out our other shows and more from the We Are Libertarians Network at wearelibertarians.com.